Well, hey, Davinci, thank you for coming on the podcast. How are you keeping?
All right, I'm pretty good, man. In the pipe, 5x5, staying alive here in Dubai.
You're in Dubai now. What brings you to Dubai?
Well, I moved to Dubai and just around March, right? And yeah, when I moved here, when I got here, for a trip, they closed the border for Chile, and I was stuck there for 3 months, and so I ended up, staying. So now I'm here, and I'm enjoying Dubai, and right now I moved from the address Skyview, and now I'm living on the Palm, and I'm really enjoying it. So it's a great feeling to be here in Dubai.
Like, I'd love to go into your story and how you got interested in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. You had that, very famous video, I think 8 years ago, where you said, just if you're watching this, please buy $1 of Bitcoin. So could you talk a little bit about what was going on in your head prior to you making that video? And was that when you made that video, were you already convinced that Bitcoin will be as big as it is now? And yeah, so do you mind telling a little bit about your state when you were looking into Bitcoin then?
Well, I got into Bitcoin back in March of 2011, well, after doing a studying how it works and what it was. Because I'm a software developer, I knew that this was going to work. And also the fact that I studied monetary history also showed me that this was going to work as well. Um, and I did videos prior to that one that I'm most famous for. And most people were rejecting me and saying, "Hey, I'm not going to put $1 into this thing." And that was back in March 2011. It was a dollar. It was actually
Yeah.
less than a dollar. It was like 67 cents. Right. And people were like, the video, when I did a video, my first video, which I can't believe I lost. It said, "Hey, listen, every once in a while, something comes along that makes poor people rich because they can buy really, really cheap. This is one of them. This is going to be the new money." And I knew that way back then because you can't stop it. This is an idea whose time has come, a digital currency that cannot be stopped by governments. And so I thought everybody would consider me a hero, right? That because I went from gold and silver, right, and found that, hey, we found a new system, but no, they hated it. A lot of my videos got thumbs down and
Yeah.
hated, and like I got horrible comments and stuff like that. And I tried explaining to people, but they were not listening. I was saying, "Hey, listen, imagine being able to go on a flight with millions of dollars, right, and get somewhere and not have to worry about, hey, the fact that you had millions of dollars with you, and nobody
Yeah.
knows you had millions of dollars with you. This is super powerful, this thing." And they still could not understand its concept. Then I did that video because they were still constantly bothering me even in 2013, and
Yeah.
so I did that video saying, "Hey, just buy $1 worth, man. Trust me,
Yeah.
you'll be all right." And yeah, they would be all right with $1 worth back then. Yeah, so.
Yeah. And so a couple of things responding to that. You said that the government wouldn't be able to shut down Bitcoin. I know that now that Bitcoin's gaining traction, there's a lot of talk about regulating crypto, especially in the United States. Do you think that any of that regulation will hamper its movement? I know, not that long ago, China said it was shutting down cryptocurrencies in its own state. So can you talk a little bit about your thoughts with government regulation in crypto?
You can't regulate actual Bitcoin. You can only regulate what other people do, right, with their Bitcoin, right? So, for example, you can only regulate exchanges, and you can only regulate people, and that regulation can only go so far. Because if you go too far, like China did, well, one, people will always go around that. I mean, they always end up doing what's best for them. It doesn't matter what governments have in the past blocked people from using US dollars.
Yeah.
And for example, in Argentina and Venezuela, but now it's clear everybody's still using US dollars, right? And in
Yeah.
those countries because they can't survive by using the current local currency.
Yeah.
So the fact that you can try to ban it only will just push more people to it. Yes, it'll only be dark markets, but even the dark markets, and even then, like for example, in Venezuela, when you want to buy a house before, when it was highly illegal to own US dollars, people would price their house in bolivars, but expect you to pay in dollars. And they'd have a contract in bolivars, but expect you that as an honor system that you're going to
Yeah.
pay in dollars.
Yeah.
You're paying in dollars.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the main things that I think is important with crypto is also, going on that topic of conversation, like Venezuela is a country that, has had times where it's hostile with the United States. And there are other countries where the United States will just bar transactions from, being made within them. And I think that's a use case for Bitcoin. Could you talk a little bit about the international economics of Bitcoin?
Yes, exactly. So effectively, if they try to push the boundary of, hey, listen, we can't, people are can't have Bitcoins, they're still going to use it. They're going to even more use it, and it just ends their game, their power. And also rules can only be done in specific jurisdictions. It can't be worldwide implemented. So just because China does it doesn't mean United States does it, or it doesn't mean that the European Union does it. So right, you'll have different rules in different places, and whoever has the fair and honest rules, right, people will flock there, and
Yeah.
money and wealth and power will flock to that area because everybody wants to protect their assets. And that's what's going to happen, right? If we see governments start to ban Bitcoin, they'll only, destroy their economic power, right? And we've seen this happen to China over and over again, when, or even countries that, they just ban freedom, right?
Yeah.
Okay, nobody's allowed to do anything, nobody's allowed to have businesses, and yeah, how does that work out for you? Oh, that's right. Everybody becomes poor and nobody has any money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people So do you think a country like El Salvador is going to have a lot of capital come to it? Like, will all of the investors then move there? Would people like you consider moving there?
Yeah, I mean, over time, it doesn't happen overnight because people are reluctant to accept what the government has done at first, right? Because anything that can be done for a government can be undone, right? So if you
Yeah.
make a rule, you can undo the rules, right? So
Yeah.
people are like a little bit slower to like, okay, you made this rule, so let's see how long you keep that, right?
Yeah.
And so if they see the government continues to support this, and future governments support it, then more people will come. It's only that really helps a country, is time and making sure that they're consistent. So if they remain consistent, right, because they're already on the bandwagon ahead of the time, ahead
Yeah.
of anybody else, it makes it easier for people to go, okay, maybe I should move my company there because, hey, you know what? I know that they're going to be consistent for a long time, to have this consistency. And so that's the key thing, right? And yeah, of course, if it's a larger government, right, that people have faith in, of course, they'll move there faster. But
Yeah.
for smaller countries like
El
but if,
Salvador.
like smaller countries, they don't have that long-term faith.
Yeah.
People,
Well, do you think if it becomes like common day, like you see these videos of people paying for like, fruits and vegetables with Bitcoin using in El Salvador using the app, do you think if it just becomes something that the people are used to using, that eventually then it will just become consistent because the people themselves are already hooked to using Bitcoin?
yes, it will take time, of course. That's not gonna happen overnight, because when we invented electricity, people hated it and they thought we were gonna burn our houses down, and we wouldn't. Nobody would ever have electricity, because how are you gonna get it there, right?
Yeah.
Right. Take people's houses. Yet everybody has this electricity today, right? But 100 years ago, it was like, oh, they lit up the Eiffel Towers. Oh, this is rich people's toys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was severely hated, and
Yeah.
yet today everyone uses it. And even though governments hated it and stuff like that, it still doesn't, you can't stop the idea whose time has come. Governments hated us having books, and they all, both governments and the church,
Yeah.
right? And they were the most powerful entities back in the past. So yet today we don't have books. Oh wait, Yeah, we
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, they can't stop an idea whose time has come. They can only best slow it down. And that's where Bitcoin is.
So I have two kind of follow-up questions on this. One, you kind of talked about how this can be a global international thing. You're from Chile. I'm sure Chile has less investment opportunities and just general opportunities than a place like the United States, where there are so many handed out to its citizens just by virtue of having money. But one of the reasons I love Bitcoin is because I think that my family back in India will be able to start earning money at the same way in which an American can earn money through the internet. Do you think that that's one of the beautiful aspects of Bitcoin, that we're going to have like a system in which everyone around the world can compete to earn money at a fair value for their effort through the internet and through Bitcoin?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Most because a lot of the people who lived in Venezuela work using Bitcoin, and they get paid in Bitcoin remotely. So it makes it easier for them to get paid. And so this is what's happening. You'll see this happening around the world slowly. Most people who have no opportunities felt because they don't have a good banking system in order to get the money to them. Bitcoin provides that opportunity, that ability to have wealth being transferred to you for your labor. So this is the beauty of Bitcoin, and what we'll see as time continues to progress, right? And people are having more and more faith that, hey, Bitcoin is the real money and not the fiat currency that's losing value every single day. So it's coming, but it's going to be slow. It doesn't happen like tomorrow. You don't create the best thing in the world and everybody says, yes, we're going to buy that. No, the world does not work that way.
Yeah.
It does not. It takes time for people to understand what it is, a long time. And then people will slowly move into it over time. And that's just the way it is. You just have to wait.
So then how do we get from this place? You kind of mentioned with electricity, right? That people were thinking at the time it first came out that this is something for the rich, like, oh, the Eiffel Tower. And right now, I think that when people think of crypto, they think of people like you who got into crypto a decade ago, who are now like reaping the benefits of Bitcoin and crypto and all that wealth. How does it go from like a movement that has that image right now, where it's like when Lamborghini, like all of this to the moon stuff, to the idea of like people in Venezuela, as you mentioned, being able to use this as a way to combat a corrupt government?
Well, this currency is very new, and so effectively it's booting up because it started with a zero value, right?
Yeah.
And so, in order for it to get to where it needs to be, as effectively no more when Lambo and all that nonsense, right? Is it has to have a higher value. It has to have a higher market cap. It has to have a minimum the market cap of gold, but that's not enough, right? It's got to be to have a market cap of about $100 million,
Yeah.
right? For it to actually stabilize and be like, okay, it's not going anywhere, right? Not going in, it's going higher, but only at 2% per year, right?
Yeah.
In the increase in population, basically. And so at that point, we'll see Bitcoin stabilize and no more one Lambo, and everybody's going to be using it. It's that point will you see it completely, everyone actually having it and being able to go, yeah, obviously I'm going to use that, right? Is when it has a stable, it doesn't move, only moves like 2 or 3% on the price markets, right? Priced against your local currency. And then at that point, your local currency will probably be gone, or people will still use their local currency, but it'll be like, yeah, we're getting
But it would be like,
no.
maybe like cash. It could be maybe like paper money that people sometimes use it, but most people are
Yeah,
using
but
alternative.
yeah, they'll be like, yeah, I'm converting to Bitcoin now, right? Once they're done.
So then
Yeah.
what about the problem of like whales? This is something a lot of people cite as a problem with Bitcoin, that, whatever it is, 1 or 2% of the Bitcoin holders own a large percentage of the crypto itself. I know that with currencies like Shiba Inu and like Dogecoin that aren't as reputable as Bitcoin, that's even more of a problem. But how do you feel about that problem of the whales, people who own a lot, who are the market makers, having the potential to sell and affect the price of it?
Okay, first off, right, when you first off, whales, if they affect the price, they affect the price. They could end up affecting the price to they could end up selling into what they think is a top, but there might be a point, there will be a point in time when actually people just buy it anyways, right?
Yeah.
And they've been manipulated out of their holdings. So they have to be careful, right? Because like, that, did you know that what's it called? The Forex market, not Forex, the bond market, the largest traded market is the bond market. And it's not you and me that's trading on the bond market, right? It's large corporations doing hundreds of millions to billions a day in trades.
Yeah.
Yet there's dumb money there. They lose their shirt. 90% of the money that's there gets lost.
Yeah.
So if there's dumb money there, right, there will be dumb money, like dumb whales who make mistakes when they trade, and they'll lose money. They'll lose those Bitcoins to other people. And as for, if you're worried about, for example, hey, you know what about people who just buy and hold and they're never gonna sell? As long as our financial system exists effectively right now, people can buy and never sell. Yes. They're like smart people who know what they're doing, right? Like myself and a few others, we can buy and hold and never sell. You're like, how's that possible? Well, because you can borrow against your Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
You borrow money, which is money, the dollars that you borrow, that you just create out of nothing.
Yeah.
Right? It's free money.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. And so because you created out of nothing, right? Why would you use your Bitcoin, which can't be created, instead of like using currency that can be created easily? It just doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
So you might be concerned that, hey, wait a second, you guys are going to have all the Bitcoin and there's not going to be any for us. Well, eventually our financial system collapses, right? Because it can't be sustained the way it is, right? And then there won't be any loans, right, through our financial system anymore. And so eventually when that happens, well, then we'll have to spend our Bitcoins directly.
Yeah.
Right? And so that day will come where we're spending our Bitcoins directly, and then other people will be able to get it. They'll be able to work for it and earn it. So it's not a big deal.
So, well, do you think, I guess like kind of a philosophical question, do you think that it's a very pessimistic time to be a young person entering the career world and like having to deal with a potential, economic collapse for the present financial system? Or do you think it's optimistic because of all the stuff going on in crypto?
It's very optimistic. You don't have to try to get into the just to own some Bitcoin, try to buy Bitcoin. You can buy other assets. There's so much assets and so much room for growth in this space. It's not funny. And you could find niche markets, right? Whether it's the NFTs or DeFi or any kind of projects that are out there. Like, for example, my friends are doing VLaunch, right? The Launchpad. These are projects that are going to do extremely well. You can buy them at a low price and be able to see things go crazy. One of my favorite things for kids, the younger generation, is play to earn. Oh my God, that is freaking huge. That is huge. You'll be able to play video games and make money. Hello.
I mean, are these fun video games? Like, will a game like Fortnite do that, or will it just be like, kind of, more fringe games?
They won't do it until after it's too late, right? So you'll have to find the other games that are going to be coming in right now, that are going to be the next big winner. So you got to find the next big winner game, get in on that, play that, get the coins from that, and that's going to be some serious money for the younger generations. You just got to find whatever game that you think people are going to play and use and get the coins and earn.
Wow.
And you really see some serious wealth creation for the younger generation.
You mentioned that, you got into Bitcoin so long ago. Can you talk about the trials and tribulations of being a hodler?
Well, it was easy at first because I was hodling gold and silver and just buying and holding, buy and hold it. But once you get to a certain level of wealth creation, it then becomes like, well, now I can buy that,
Yeah.
right? And so it becomes a little. It was. I ended up, trying to trade, and it was one mistake I made, and I lost a lot of Bitcoin there. And two, also spending money. Once you have a lot of money, you end up like going, yeah, I'm gonna spend a little bit, and then a little bit becomes a lot, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it comes. That's always a hard thing to do, to be a long-term hodler, right? But yeah, I
Can
managed
you
to
give some
get
advice
it.
on how to be a long-term hodler?
Well, not find a job that's gonna get you, that's gonna sustain you, and don't quit the job until you get to a certain level of wealth, right? So for example, I would say 20-30 million dollars worth, and then you could quit your job, right?
Sure.
Because and that, I'm saying 20 to 30 million dollars now, and then in a few years it's going to be a lot more,
Yeah.
right? Because the dollar value is just dropping so fast. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of scary to say. You might say, well, why 20 and 30 million? Well, because let's just say you wanted to, well, you wanted to live off of your wealth, right? Through interest payments, you're going to need that kind of level in order to live off your wealth based on what your job was. So,
Yeah.
anyways, that's a whole other complicated financial advice that I'm not going to get
Sure.
into. So,
And I guess the final question is, do you think someone who's like just starting out, like everyone who's probably going to watch this interview, can get to that level of 20 to 30 plus $1 million through crypto?
you can. The problem is, will you do it, right? The issue is, humans can do great things, right? Can always accomplish great things, right? But what they will do is another thing. Is always another thing. Always something less than stellar.
Sure.
So that's it. You have it in you. You just need to do it.
Sure. Well, thank you for your time, Davinci, and take care. Enjoy
All right.
Dubai, and
Thanks. Thank you
have a good
very
one.
much.
Hope you come on sometime in the future. Take care.
Definitely. Cheers.
Bye.